What up, peoples? Welcome to the Even People Show. And in the words of William Bound to Killer, it's been so long. It's been so long. Yeah, I hope everybody is doing all right. Like I said, this is the Even People Show with your host Martin Matthews. Today we're going to be talking about the work-life imbalance. Let me see if I can get that crawl up on the road. All right, we're going to be talking about the work-life imbalance today. And as usual, if this is your first time joining the Evil in People show, welcome to the show. On this show, we just pick random things and we talk about it. Yeah, we sometimes have guests on here. We chat, we laugh, we chat, we laugh, innit? We chat, we laugh, we interview some folks, and we usually have a positive vibration. But yeah, I had some weeks off. That's why I chose to do this show today, because my work life was imbalanced bad, boy. I didn't even have time to do the show. I had to cancel on guests that I had, and that's not me. I'm all the way professional and usually ready to go. But here we are, and welcome back. And as long as we're in the studio, which I'm still working on, set up a new studio, and I'm still working out some kinks with my lighting. I can see that thing over there in the side there that's not supposed to be there, but we'll work it out. All right, so today we're going to talk about the work-life imbalance. Now, work-life balance has become a matter that has what should I say, been brought to the surface recently, and there's been a lot of emphasis, a lot of time being spent on it. The music loaded with a bass in my car speakers, right? I know it's a wicked sound, Shirley. That intro actually is a really nice intro. When you have something that can actually play it on, like I played it in the car too, and yeah, it rocks out in the car. I want to give a shout out to Malik, son of my dear friend's son that made that rhythm and give me access to it for my show. Bless up yourself, youth. All right. So we're going to talk about work-life balance, right? And in case y'all wondering what I was talking about, that was Shernette saying she was in her car when it loaded and the speakers picked it up and the intro of bass in it. And I think a joke thing. All right. So before we actually get into the work-life balance, Bernard, darling, bless up yourself. My brother, bless up yourself. Don't know what things said. Yeah, before we get into it, I want us to look at like what are we talking about when we talk about work-life balance, work-life imbalance? What is this about? Why is there so much importance on it now? And let's see how far we get with this. So you say work-life balance basically is the equilibrium between your personal life and your career work. Equilibrium between personal life and career work, or put simply, it's having enough time for work and having enough time for your personal life. It's where you have those two at some kind of balance where you are achieving what you need to on both fronts. Now, this was not always the case. This was not always something that anybody paid attention to. This was not always something that got any traction at all. In fact, here in the United States, laws were being passed to facilitate work-life balance. So we had laws passed as far back as 1874, 1905, again, laws were passed back then to limit the workday to 10 hours per day. Because prior to that time, when those laws were passed, you just worked till you dropped. You literally just worked all day, or you worked from sun up till sundown until you could not work anymore. That is essentially how work was viewed. So at that time, work-life balance was not even a concept at all. You just worked as much as you could for as long as you could until you dropped. Um, in the 70s, the 1970s, is when the concept of actually having an 8-hour work day actually came about. Before the 1970s, again, employers could have you work for as long as ever. Something like things like time and a half and all these things were not standard either. So you'd just be working, working, working. And work-life balance was really not a thing anybody was really looking at. Now, what has brought this to the forefront is the realization that, guess what, employers, you can't work people to death. You can't just get up and have people working from sun up till sundown and expect to get a good result each time. All right. So what the employers started realizing is that overwork employees get injured more. Overwork employees are not as productive. Overwork employees make more mistakes. So on account of that, things like a 8-hour work day became a thing. A 40-hour work week became a thing. Different laws governing males and females became a thing, because work-life balance, like I said, was not always something that anybody paid any attention to at all. It's just something that that is now gaining some traction. In fact, having an 84-hour work week was common back in the 1970s, 1960s. Having an 84-hour work week is what normal looked like before laws were passed in 1970s here in the US to limit the work day to 8 hours and the work week to 40 hours. You had stuff like FMLA, family medical leave, becoming a thing, and that wasn't until 1993 that it became a thing. It is very important. You have to have that balance. Overworking or being overworked does nothing for no one. But FMLA, who would have thought FMLA is such a popular thing now? But FMLA came about in 1993. You have stuff like maternity leave. Maternity leave was not always a thing either. At one point, you would work as a pregnant woman until you pretty much had the child at work. Then you go home, and as soon as possible, you're back at work. Now maternity leave has now come about. Maternity leave is a thing that guarantees the right of the woman in the workplace while she is to bear her child. You had things like vacation, legal holidays, minimum wage, and occupational burnout. All these are variables, or are the factors that came together essentially, and are the byproduct of this whole move toward achieving work-life balance, both on the part of the employee and on the part of the employer. Now, what I found out while I was reading up for the show is that you actually have an index, just like how you have an index for earthquake, and you say earthquake measures such and such. You actually have a group called the OECD, and I didn't Google enough to see what it stands for, but they measure the Better Life Index. They measure the Better Life Index. They say the United States is ranked 28th in the world. Europe is apparently the one leading the way with this work-life balance. But and I'm gonna throw some things out there that you may or may not know, that you see that, and you compare yourself to wherever you are, if your situation looks anything like this, right? So Denmark, for example, Denmark has a 52-week paid leave for a newborn. So everybody in the country that has a newborn or that has a child is guaranteed a 52-week paid leave from work. Let that sink in for a second. All right, especially the women out there. Let that sink in for a second. Guaranteed 52-week paid leave if you have a newborn. And they also have universal childcare, to where as long as you have a child, there will be care for the child. You can leave the child or you will have childcare. All right. Sweden, for example, has a 480 days paid leave for parents. So as long as you have children, you are allowed 480 days. I can't days. A 365 days in the year. A half hours. You're allowed 480 hours off per year if you have children. Now, who is that checking in? Stacey, blessings, my dear. Thanks for checking in. Delana Dowdy, big up yourself, na youth. Slovakia has 2 years. I didn't know that. Slovakia has 2 years. If you have a newborn in Slovakia, you get 2 years paid off. Tanasha, bless up yourself, my dear. Thanks for checking in to the Evening People show. So we were talking about some countries and just asking you to compare yourself and your situation to how deliberately some countries are going about achieving their work-life balance and how seriously they take it. We said Denmark have 52 weeks. Sweden has 480 days. Sweden has also employed a 6-hour workday. 6-hour workday is standard, and only 1% of their population works over 50 hours a week. Only 1% of their population works over 50 hours a week, and the average person has an 8-hour work day, right? And like I said, we're talking about work-life balance, work-life imbalance. And let's put that on a spectrum. Let's say if we were to put it on a continuum, and we're saying work-life balance is over here, work-life imbalance is over here. Where are you? Where do you fit on the spectrum? And like I said, I'm just giving you some background, and then we go get into it a little bit more. Now, one of the benefits that those countries that have taken these deliberate steps have identified is that it increased productivity. When your workers, when your associates, when the people that work for your organization have work-life balance, they're more productive. You can also get better people to work for you, because now that you facilitate that, you are now a desired place to work. You really won't have a problem finding people to work for you when you offer these benefits to them. You also have reduced absenteeism, and that is people not calling out from work every day. You have lower turnover, so you'll have, when you have longevity, you should have increased productivity as well. You boost your profit and you boost your shareholders' returns that they get. Now, for the employee, the benefit of them is they get improved satisfaction from working, because they now have that balance. Delano is saying COVID created more balance for me, but I still feel like I am on the side of the imbalance. Okay, I feel you on that. I want to tell you, Delano, that for me, COVID has given me more work. Because the industry that I work in, we slowed down for a little bit and then we took off. And I'm still playing catch up with hiring people to get to the amount that we need to get to, because a lot of people figured out alternative ways. The fact that our leaders of the state was giving away free money to quite a few people for a long time, a lot of people kind of figure out how to live another way than the way they were living. And a lot of people have now taken, deliberate steps to make sure that their work-life balance is in fact a lot more balanced than it probably was before. All right. So let's look at this for a minute. We were going to look at who are the people that are affected by this work-life imbalance. And while I'm doing that, we're going to look also at where does working from home fit in all this. Now, I think that professionals or prospective professionals are these people who usually have this work-life imbalance, because out of a drive to better themselves, out of a drive to achieve, out of a drive to get to that next level, they overwork themselves, or they don't really care too much about the balance, or they feel like they're just doing whatever needs to be done. And I'm going to categorize these here in a minute. You have other peoples you can look at. You might say, Martin, I'm not a professional. I'm not, considered a professional based on what I do. But you can look at people like farmers. And mind you, farmers nowadays are coming in every shape and form. I have a friend of mine that's a principal who is actively looking for more land to lease to extend his farming initiatives. But you have to look at it too. How much time do you actually spend doing the work? How much time do you actually spend with your family? You have students as well. Where do students fit in? You have somebody like a taxi driver that is running taxi from sun up till sundown, goes home just long enough to sleep, wakes up early again in the morning to hit back the road because he want to catch them early set of people going out. Probably has charters that he runs to, probably have a scheduled amount of people that he picks up throughout the day as well, along with just going to a taxi stand, picking up taxis. So it's really, I'd say anyone who needs to work long hours to make ends meet, or that's on one spectrum. And on the other side, you have people who are business owners who, because they're the one that's going to be left holding the bucket at the end of the day, they feel like, you know what, I just have to keep putting in hours because if something goes wrong, I am the one to blame. And a lot of these people, especially the ones that own businesses, they have, from a financial standpoint, what is necessary for them to achieve the balance, but it's almost like they're afraid to take the chance because they don't have the people that are there that they can trust to be away. So yes, they can afford to, vacation here or vacation there, wherever on the planet, really. But then you do it for 2 weeks, you do it for a week here, you do it for 2 weeks there, but when you come back, you're still working 80-hour weeks. You know what I mean? Your idea of a slow day is still spending most of the day at home working on your laptop because you have to do these things because it's your company. And if it fails, it ultimately rests with you. But can that be considered work-life balance? And as we're having the conversation, how important is this balance? And if we conclude that the balance is necessary, are you doing yourself an injustice, even if it's your own company or you're working for someone? And is it that our desire to be professional, to be responsible, to be all that we can be, is that driving us down a path that is really not good for us in the long run? All right, let me see what Bernard is saying here. Bernard is saying there are a lot of people just discovering that they have other talents too and are opening up. Yes, a lot of people are doing that. Shernette Higgins, who I think was on here, I was watching one of her financial focus program, and she was talking about people falling back on something that they could have done all along and just wasn't doing. And now that COVID has happened and now that they're home, they're realizing that, hey, this thing is still out there. I can still do this. And they're falling back on that too, to make ends meet. But at the same time, in some instances, they're doing that along with work. So they're doing what is considered work. Then they're going home to work some more. And does that really achieve this balance? All right. So those are the who's. Those are some of the who that this applies to. Now, what are they doing? I think I kind of answered that too. What they're doing really is out of a sense of responsibility. And mind you, let me back up here for a second. I've taken on this challenge myself with my friends, my close friends, and a iconic advisor, Shernette. I've taken this up with my friends, and I've told them, I'll be on vacation and visit friends, and they're there, teachers, principals, education officers, and so on, and they're working. I'm like, yo, you've been at this all day. It's nighttime, like the curfew time soon come, and you're still at it. And it's like a lot of people are finding out now that they're actually working more from home than they were working when they were actually physically going into the office. Because now the laptop is there, and some persons, because they're not going anywhere, they don't want to go anywhere because of COVID, they're at home and they're like, I might as well. So now a lot of people are donating free labor to their employer because of wanting to stay on top of things. When if they were in the office and leaving the laptop or the computer at work, they wouldn't be able to do some of the work that they're doing now. But because they're working from home, even though they're working from home in their homes, they're still not achieving the work-life balance. Let's see what Tanasha is saying. Tanasha is saying, Martin, it is sometimes impossible to balance um, in your quest to be professional because of the expectations that have to be met. Now, but at the same time, we pointed out a few things earlier, Tanasha, and we pointed out a few things, and we're saying that overworked people or people who have that work-life balance, they work better, they're more productive, they make less mistakes, they're less likely to call in from work, and they're more likely to be vested in what the company is wanting them to pay attention to. One of the studies that was done even in Jamaica, they found out that there was low employee engagement. So despite the employers attempt to, get the employees engaged in whatever initiative they had going on, the employees just weren't about that life. So you have low employee engagement because I'm working too much. Yes, I need the pay. Yes, I'm professional. Yes, I want to be, responsible for what I'm responsible for, but I'm working too much. And at that point, when I call in from work, I feel justified. When I go home sick, I feel justified. Greeting Katie Boucher, New York in house. When I whatever I have to do to make me feel like I'm achieving that balance, I'm going to do it. Because guess what? I feel overworked on any given day of the week. I feel overworked. You know what I mean? So we're saying that yes, sometimes in your professional or in that quest for professionalism or in that quest to meet the demand that is placed on you by your employer or by your own business, you kind of have this sense of just go, 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 get it done. But at the end of the day, burnout is still a thing. Crashing and burning is still a thing. Getting yourself to the point where you're creating illnesses in your body on account of how you are approaching this whole thing is a thing. And there's statistics to prove there's statistics to support how negatively this can affect you. So you actually have to watch it. Now, what has also been happening is we've had a lot of people, and this has been pointed out in Jamaica too, that are walking away from higher paying jobs in order to achieve the work-life balance, because they're realizing that, you know what, I have money, I'm successful, I can take care of what I need to take care of, but I'm still working too much. I'm still coming home and I'm so wound up in the head from work that I can't even be who I need to be for my family. So when I come home, I need how much ever hours I need to just thaw out from the mindset that I need to be in to be at work. And by that time, everybody gone in bed. I'm gonna get up early in the morning and gone again. So it's almost like your family actually never gets you. Maybe 2 or 3 days into your vacation, they get you. By the vacation, up at the end of the week or at the end of the 2 weeks, you're back to the version of you become when you're at work. And you're totally upside down imbalance. It's like a loan and an upside down. You need to take steps to achieve this balance, because your family, your employer, yourself stands to benefit if you actually do the things that are necessary to achieve this balance. Now, why is it so hard to strike the balance? Why is it that this has now been placed in a spotlight and everybody is out there saying, hey, we need to do this, we need to spend more time on this? I think based on where you are in your life, it is one of the variables. And where you are when you realize that this stability is needed is going to ultimately dictate what the outcome is for you, and if you actually achieve it before death do you part. Let's see what Bernard is saying here. Bernard is saying, and money by itself can't make someone happy unless you have your loved ones to enjoy it with. Those are solid points, my sir. Yeah, you can't eat money, you can't drink money. Um, Tanasha is saying, I agree with you about the work-life balance, Martin. However, I'm guessing there's more to come. Let's hear what else Tanasha is going to come with as we move on here. Um, so, like I'm saying, nowadays or more recently, employers have been putting more emphasis on this work. But let's pause for a minute here. It's so funny to me, even as I was reading a couple things for this show, and I'm looking at it, and it's like, wait a minute, you're telling me that sociologists and psychologists had to come telling us, say, oh, you need to put, as employers, you need to put stuff in place for your people to help them achieve work-life balance. You are actually all along until so, and it was probably somebody famous that came out and said it, or somebody that made it popular enough. Employer, Mr. Employer, you never realized your people actually need to have this work-life balance. You actually thought that it was okay to just have people working at this frequency that they were at to facilitate your happiness instead of their own. All right, let's see what the rest of Tanasha was saying. She was saying, however, sometimes to provide for your family. And you're right, Tanasha. And I think, like I was saying, there are two categories of this life balance and this necessity for it, or the necessity for the imbalance even. Because based on what you do for a living and the nature of it, so say for example, you have a job, and if you work that job for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, it's really just a drop in the bucket to the things that you're responsible for. So in order to bridge that gap a little more, you work longer hours. In order to bridge that gap a little more, you take on a second job. So in your attempt to achieve, on the one hand, providing for your family, you are essentially throwing off balance your work-life balance. So even if you are successfully providing and taking steps to successfully provide for them the material things that they need, you yourself is not there, and your work-life balance is still out of sync. You still officially fall in the imbalance side of things. And Tanash, mind you, I get it. I've been told at least 2 times this week I work too much. I'm told all the time I work too much. I know that I work too much, and it's almost like I have to be now, approaching the whole thing another way. Just saying, hey, what can I actually do differently to achieve this work-life balance? Because I need to achieve this work-life balance, because at the end of the day, here's the thing. There have been several studies that have linked illnesses to work-life imbalance. So yes, you have to provide. Yes, you have to work. But at the same time, if you do it to the point where now you are injuring yourself, you're hurting yourself, was it worth it? Was it worth it? If you do it and in fact alienate your family from you, alienate yourself from your family, was it in fact worth it? The fact that you can't afford whatever you can afford with it, was it in fact worth it? The fact that you can vacation wherever you want to vacation, and yes, for 1-2 weeks, a couple times a year, you have a grand time, but as soon as you come back, you're still back to the 100-hour work week. Is that balance? You know what I mean? Is that balance, and is that good enough? And can you actually take steps to help you to achieve that balance? All right. Like I was saying, first I was roughing up the employers that, lo and behold, somebody told them, hey, you need to help your associates achieve work-life balance. But since it has now, there's been a resurgence of the importance of this. Several employers have put several things in place to help their associates. One such thing here in the US is called EAP, Employee Assistance Program. A lot of people now are focusing on mental health, mental wellness, mental well-being. They're creating hotlines. They have professionals that you can call and talk to, and you can actually, they can essentially talk you off the ledge. And like we mentioned earlier, other things like FMLA, intermittent FMLA, maternity leave, vacations, minimum wage, and stuff like that have been, or some employers employ these things and have these benefits available to their associates so that when it's necessary, they can. This is not the case all across the board. A lot of this depends on who you work for. A lot of this depends on what is available. Time control is also very important. Burnout, I concur. You have to manage. You have to manage your time. You have to. You have to be deliberate. You have to first identify that this is something that is necessary. This is something that I need. This is something that is going to help me in the long run. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this. It's kind of like trying to study when you're tired. You're in school. You need to study for something, and you're tired. And you say, yeah, try to get to the end of this chapter, or you're trying to get to the end of these two chapters today, but you're falling asleep. And I want to tell you, a lot of the times, that last hour when you're pretty much half asleep, you don't retain anything that hour. You know what I mean? Whatever you grasp when you were awake, good. But when that sleep comes in, the work-life balance can be likened to that, where you can keep pushing, 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 but at the same time, when it all falls apart, would it have been worth it? You know what I mean? With the sleep scenario, if you'd just go on your bed, probably take a nap, wake up and try again, you probably would achieve more. So we have to start looking at it and say, what do we want the end result to be? Yes, this is the process. Yes, this is something I have to do. Yes, I'm responsible. Yes, I have bills to pay. Yes, I have mouths to feed. But if the bottom of the bucket falls out, then what? What can I do now to prevent the bottom of the bucket falling out? And are there steps that I can take right here, right now, today, to help me to keep that bucket around for a little longer? Body needs time to repair. Absolutely. Now, some of the side effects of this work-life imbalance, as we've pointed out, is conflict within the family, conflict with your spouse, conflict with your children, conflict in your friendships, to where your significant other wants to see you, want to spend time with you, but you're not available. Your children want to see you, want to spend time with you, but you're not available. Your friends likewise. And sometimes too, even when you're physically there, you're not mentally there because you're exhausted from work. You essentially brought home with you. Sometimes you come home with the attitude that you had at work or that you need for work. You bring it home with you, and you negatively affect the people that you live with it, or as a result of it. Like we pointed out, mental wellness is something that has come to the forefront, and many of employees, a lot of 800 numbers are there that you can call and get professionals on the line that can help you through burnout. It mash up your yard, and it definitely does. And we pointed out also that, when you get to that point where you're totally imbalanced, you're not going to be performing that job. You're not going to be performing at home. Come home too tired. I was talking to a friend and them say, yes, when when the significant other come home too tired, then can't do nothing. I don't know if they were talking about mowing the lawn or what, but that's what they said. So you pretty much have to put it in a space where you have to look at what you want for yourself. You have to look at your life's goals. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? What do you want it to look like for yourself and your family? And actually make sure that you're making the decisions that are going to help you achieve that. And re-identify whether or not the path that you're on is actually going to have you crash land in the sand before you actually achieve that goal that you have. So let's wrap this up here. Like we said, more people are figuring out that it is necessary. It is time for me to figure out something that's going to help me achieve this balance. Some people are figuring out that, this tug of war that I'm having between my work and my family, it can't work. It's almost like I don't have enough time to unplug from one to actually plug into the other. So it's almost like I'm on service. I'm not performing like I should at work. I'm not performing like I should at home. But these are the two things that are pulling me in two opposite directions. Now, work-life balance, work-life imbalance, and achieving what we want is going to ultimately come down to how important you view it. How important do you see having a work-life balance? How important is it to you that you have enough time? And majority of the time, I will say it is the family that suffers. It's the life part of that equation that suffers. You know what I mean? It's work-life balance. It's not usually life-work balance. It's not like you have everybody out there just living it up and the people at work are suffering. That's not usually the case. It's usually more of you working, overworking, um, too long at work, and not having enough time for your family. So, and which of these are more important? Yes, you have your job. Yes, you need these things, but which of these are actually more important to you, the individual? And if you say that it is your family, and yes, I'm providing for them, I have to provide, I'm the this, I'm the that, and we get all that. But at the same time, if at the end of it, you ever see some scenarios where people make significant sacrifices for their family? You know what I mean? They take some jobs they wouldn't normally take, making sacrifices for their family. But at the end of the day, the family doesn't appreciate it because what the family actually wanted was more time with you. And instead of more time with you, you spent more time at work providing for them and end up ostracizing your family or ostracizing yourself from your family. So you really have to look at it and say, hey, what am I trying to achieve here? And are the steps that I'm taking to achieve it, are these the right steps that are going to get me the end result that I want? You know, it's like having somebody that came up rough and they decided, you know what, I'm gonna work hard because I don't want my kids to come up like that. And they do work hard, but while they were out working so hard, they never actually got a chance to teach their kids a solid work ethic. So yes, they work hard and the kids have things, but they pick them spoil, as we would have said in Jamaica, them spoil because they had parents who were so busy working hard to make it better for them. And they did achieve that. But that's the only thing they achieved because their kids now are dysfunctional because they weren't around to impart on the kids even that same work ethic or similar work ethic to where the kids can now go out and be functional members of society. All right. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Welcome back. Even People Show is back. Next week, I should start ringing in guests again as I myself work on my work-life balance and see if I can tip the scale back to balance as opposed to the imbalance. Our talk today was about work-life imbalance. The questions were, you know, where are you on the spectrum? Are you more on the side of the balance, or are you more on the side of the imbalance? And is there something you can do now today even, or is there something you can do in the short term that can help you achieve balance? Because, and especially if the people that you are working so hard for, you're actually ostracizing yourself from them because of how long, because of how much you're working. It's Even People Show, and before I'm bounce, I almost wrap up the show just now. I haven't read a poem for y'all today, and I haven't read a poem for you in a minute. So I'm going to read a poem for you real quick, and then I'm going to bounce. The poem I'm going to read for you comes from my book, Love, Life, Confrontation, Selection from the Chronicles of a Black Man. If for whatever reason you're watching and you don't have a copy, if you're in Jamaica, go to Fontana Pharmacy and cop one. If you're anywhere else, Amazon.com will take care of that for you, all right? The most fitting poem, I think, for today is a one called Living. Living is on page 28 and 29 of the book. And it's living with a question sign because it's pretty much asking the question, are you in fact living? And are these things that you are doing, do they constitute living? All right, so real quick, and then we bounce. It says living, but only 12 hours a day. The other 12 is for the man, next best thing to being a slave to the systems and its ways, in bed by 10, at work by 8, lunch at 12, the special at the usual spot, the time allotted allows nothing but, out at 4:30, maybe 5, pinching myself to see if I'm alive. Still my actions are not my own. The man dictates what I do at home. How is this, do you ask? Let's see. Where do I start? Pick up the kids on time or pay the charge. No unapproved objects outside the garage. No sprinkling the lawn before sundown. No dogs unattended to run around. Excuse me, sir, your music's too loud. We're having an HOA meeting and you're disturbing the crowd. Ha! And don't even think of leaving home in case you have a wannabe George Zimmerman in your town. Oh, wait, it's almost 8. A whole 2 hours to myself, I can hardly wait. I might watch a game of soccer. That'll take me till 10. Then I'm up at 6 to do it all again. Living, put simply, having life. But is it really living when your day lacks choice? The special at lunch, the game before bed, dare I wear those shoes I like? Best stick to the dress code instead. Do you get it? Living, more like structured shades. Or is this what living look like in these end of days? And it's quite okay if you think I'm tripping. If you had a choice, you'd know what you're missing. And I get it. You're an adult with bills to pay. That's what everyone else does, right? So they say. Cheers to V for Vendetta. Or is that too extreme? How do you know? You see life through a screen. A screen of illusion that puts you in charge. Mind control at its best, the ultimate mirage. Free like we want to be? Not even close. There goes my alarm, initiating Monday's woes. And that is living, and it essentially wraps up some of what we were talking about. It's just somebody that's on the treadmill. It's not treadmill. What is somebody hamster up on the wheel? On the wheel. Going nowhere. All right. But if you're out there and you're living with a question sign, or if you're not sure if you're living and you're not sure the question sign is there, and your work-life balance is actually work-life imbalance, you might want to check that out. And you might want to see what options you are for fixing that. You've been watching the Evening People Show. Thanks for joining, and catch you next time. Peace.